1. A couple came in tonight and were seated in my section. He was whatever. She was done up to the teats. Clearly insecure and down to despise other women and view them as competition. Lucky me, as a woman, I was their server. As I always do with couples, I make eye contact and greeted her first. I smiled at her, then him, and asked him what I could start them off with. She was not having anything to do with me. She stared at me with malice, gave me her drink order abruptly. And while he ordered, I could feel her eyes on me. Oh, she hated me. And it was just because I'm a girl. I brought them their first round. I served her first, smiled at her, barely looked at her dude, because this was clearly an issue with her. Let me say, she was done up flawless, beautiful makeup, hair on point, heels despite the snow and ice outside. This was a pris girl, and all I did, as usual, was smile, address her, and try to let her know, hey, I'm not after your dude. It's fine. Nothing worked with her. She was cold as ice and rude to me, sending a drink back because it had too much ice, openly staring at me while I served other tables, literally ignoring me, except for a bitchy stare. When I asked how they were doing for drinks, etc., I could go on, but you get it. A total bitch. He was basically invisible. The time came when she wanted to pay using her credit card. Lucky her. It was me at the bar to put the sale through. I saw the total. She tipped me 0, which I had expected. But little did I expect what happened next. As I swiped her card, it was just she and I at the bar. No one else around. No old man, no drunken idiot, just she and I. I knew she was still staring at me. I could see it peripherally as I watched the TV nonchalantly, waiting for the sale to go through, and this asshole and her moron boyfriend to be gone. Then it hit me. The hard smell of rotten, rank fart. It was thick and meaty, not sulfur or sewage. This was a human smell from the depths of a rotting bowel stuffed with poop. And it was from this bitch she had farted. And the dank waft slithered into my nostrils. Oh Lord, I smelled it. And here's where it gets good. I looked at her once the stink hit me, and she looked at me. We made eye contact. We both knew she had farted darkly and hard. And she knew that I knew it was her. There was a fart. She knew she had farted. I knew she had farted. And she knew that I knew it was her. For the first time that entire night, I saw weakness in her eyes. But I couldn't resist. I couldn't help but start to smile as I stared at this princess in a cloud of her shit smell. While our eyes were connected, inhaling the stench, I grinned. You farted, I said simply, smiling. She said nothing, but her eyes told the tale of her horror. And then her receipt printed out. I continued smiling as she raced back to her clown boyfriend, gathered her coat and purse and fled. Oh Lord, I won. She was too vain to be able to own her fart, even to turn it against me. Attitude all night, no tip. You farted and you stink, asshole. Have a good night. 2. I had a pretty bad day on Sunday because of one particular table. Some ladies walk in and request a table for 15, which we set up in my section. For about 30 minutes, there are only 4 people, and then about 10 more people show up. The first thing that rubs me wrong about these people is that they came in and put their motorcycle helmets on a clean table without asking. A host immediately tells me that they're about to sit that table, so I go over to my table and say, "Hey, we would like to use this table. Would you be able to find another place to put your helmets?" And they look really annoyed with me, like, excuse you? You were the ones who just assumed you could put your smelly helmets wherever you wanted. Now, because this is a big table, the hosts aren't really seating me any other tables because they are trying to wait for me to take their order. Not like I have many other tables because the big top takes up most of my section. Anyway, they're still sitting there not ordering anything for another 10 minutes, and then one person tells me, "Actually, we have 6 more coming. You're gonna have to pull over that other table." They just demand to have the other table moved over, which we do, because what else could we do? So sure, we move the table and then they continue to sit there. I offered to get appetizers started, but no, they're still waiting for more people. 2 more guys eventually show up. They finally ask me to get drinks started. I grab beverages and come back and the little girl has thrown up on the floor. I immediately run to grab towels and my manager comes to help me sanitize the area. Now this part actually makes me laugh. My manager is like, "Hey, may I get under the table a sec so I can sanitize it?"
"Nah, man, I got it, dude."
"No, that's okay, allow me."
"Just let me do it."
The guest grabs onto the other end of the sanitizer bottle and attempts to pull it out of my manager's hand. At this point, there are 2 grown men having a small tug-of-war over a spray bottle. The guest finally says,
"Gimme!"
and yanks the bottle out of my manager's hand. My manager just stands there stunned for a second and mumbles awkwardly, "Well, legally, I'm not supposed to let you do it because of the chemicals," while the guest scrubs up the rest of the vomit. The family with the little girl ends up leaving because the girl isn't feeling good, and then someone at the table says,
"This is everyone, let's order."
So in the final count is 12 people, which means they definitely didn't need the extra table. But then again, maybe they did since all their motorcycle helmets are now filling the empty seats. I take their orders, get their food, and they all seem to be happy. They have about 8 different checks and I split them up without any problem. And then find that all 4 of them stiff me, which is collectively like getting stiffed on about $100. And the rest of the tips for that table ended up being only about $15. I feel like I shouldn't have expected anything more, and I got bad vibes from the beginning. But it's always kinda disappointing when I still try to give them excellent service anyway and get stiffed. Especially since that table ended up being more than half my sales for the day. 3. I work as both a server and a bartender for an expensive corporate company that won't be named. I have many stories from my time working there, but this one happened pretty close to when I quit, so it's still fresh in my mind, and still makes me scratch my head to this day. I was working on bar when it happened, and to really understand the ridiculousness of the situation, I need to give a brief description of the bar setup. Behind the bar itself, we have a cooler with glass doors that has our bottled beer section on one side and our white wine section on the other. Above this cooler, we have a shelf with our red wines. We also have drink menus on bar top that list all our wine options. It was a pretty slow day, so I was just chilling by the bar register looking over my schedule and tidying up my station when a woman comes up to the bar. She seems nice enough despite having a "can I speak to your manager" haircut. She begins browsing our wine section and asks me about what we have.
"What kinds of sweet wines do you have?"
Our sweetest wines are going to be our whites. We have Moscato, Pinot Grigio, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and White Zinfandel. The Moscato is going to be the sweetest, but the Riesling and Zinfandel are pretty sweet as well.
"I think I'll go for the Moscato."
Of course. Would you like a 5-ounce pour or an 8-ounce pour?
"What's the price difference?"
The 5-ounce will be about $8 and the 8-ounce will be about $10 after tax.
"Really? $10 for a glass of wine?"
Fine. I guess I'll go ahead and do the 8-ounce anyways. Haha, yeah, the drinks are a bit pricey. Considering we sell high-end wine, $10 seems to be a decent price for a large glass, but that's just me. I proceeded to pour her wine. She pays in cash, doesn't tip, but it's a small bill, so I don't really care, and goes to sit at a table by the bar to wait for her husband. Things are pretty peachy so far, until aforementioned husband arrives. He meets his wife at the table, and then comes up to me to get her another glass of wine.
"What kind of sweet wines do you have?"
Again, really? Our sweetest is going to be our Moscato.
"Do you have red Moscato?"
We do not, unfortunately. We only have white Moscato.
"Well, what do you have for reds?"
We have a Cab, a Merlot, and a couple of Pinot Noirs available by the glass, as well as a red blend and a few others available in bottle. But do you have red Moscato? No, we just have the white Moscato. Okay, what do you have for sweet reds? Well, we unfortunately don't have any reds that are going to be as sweet as a Moscato. But the Merlot is pretty good and is a bit sweeter than the other reds in my opinion. So you don't have any sweet reds? No, we don't, I'm sorry. We do have one rosé, the White Zinfandel. That's pretty sweet though. But no red Moscato? No. Gesturing to the cooler. Okay, so what do you have in there? Literally going in order and pointing out each wine. Moscato, Chardonnay, White Zinfandel, the rosé, Pinot Grigio, Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. Is one of those a red Moscato? No, the only non-white wine in here is the White Zinfandel, which is our rosé. Honey! She says they don't have a red Moscato, come here! The wife comes back over. What sweet reds do you have? We don't really have anything as sweet as a Moscato, but the Merlot is pretty mild and is probably my favorite. I like sweet wines too. Well, can I try it? Yeah, I'm not going to pay for a glass of wine if she doesn't like it. We aren't really supposed to do this, but I oblige and let her sample it anyways. Oh, God, that's disgusting! I'll just do another glass of the Moscato. I pour her a glass and she walks away. How much is that going to be? That'll be $9.89. Seriously, $10 for some wine? He pays with a card and tips me $1, which was honestly more than I would have expected. Scene end. I have never talked in circles with someone so much in my entire life. It's like he was convinced we had a red Moscato and I was just hiding it from him, even though he could clearly see our entire wine collection right behind me. 4. I work at a corporate breakfast restaurant, and I have since I was 16. We mostly get older guests in, but I'm not sure if it's the area or what. But I have some of the most ridiculous stories from the 5 years I've been there. This one in particular always stands out to me. At the time I was still 16, maybe 17. I don't really remember. Every Sunday religiously we had these two regulars come in for lunch. An older man, probably in his 60s, and his son, probably mid-40s. The dad was quiet, didn't bother you, just wanted his food. The son, on the other hand, who, relevant to the story, was confined to a wheelchair. My guess is he had a stroke or possibly brain damage, judging by his slurred speech, was a huge creep. They always requested a particular table, one of maybe 5 that were wheelchair accessible. So they didn't request me that often, but I did happen to get that section a lot. The creep would keep me there talking for any reason under the sun. As long as he could, saying inappropriate things and asking inappropriate questions. I'm cute, my hair was beautiful, he loved blondes, did I have a boyfriend, how old was I? Yes, he knew. I looked old for my age, did I have a boyfriend? The list goes on. I deal with my fair share of creeps, so at first I could deal. Smile, nod, get away ASAP. Then it just got worse and worse over time. He would stop before being seated to talk to me if I hadn't already ran to the back. Then, after ordering, would follow me anywhere he could throughout the restaurant. I tried my best to stay in back of house when he was there without neglecting tables. Everyone noticed his behavior. My co-workers told me he used to do the same thing to another girl that used to work there before me. I dealt with this for far too long until this one particular Sunday afternoon. I was in a section, quite literally on the opposite side of the restaurant from where he was seated, doing fills and closing it down since we were considerably less busy at night. The closing manager, my AGM, who I really got along with and wasn't usually at the store in time to witness Creep's behavior, was seated at one of the tables doing paperwork. Creep comes all the way over to my section to do what he does and be creepy. This time he gives me a piece of paper with his address and phone number on it, and goes on this whole rant about how he's just lonely and wants to go out with me sometime. Just as friends, though. I do my usual smile, nod, tell him thanks or whatever the hell I could manage as a response. We go to part ways. I go to hide, and as I turn around, my AGM was looking quite irritated and asks me what Creep was saying. I show him the piece of paper and tell him what he said. I explain how he constantly is creepy towards me, I almost kind of laugh it off as it's a constant occurrence for me. He tells me if creep keeps bothering me, let him know. I agree. I hide in the back for a while before deciding I should probably go finish what I was doing. I go back to the same section I was closing where my AGM was sitting. I start doing my thing. And here comes creep again. He starts saying something about making sure I can read the address and number. I don't remember exactly what was said. As he goes back to his table, I look at my AGM with an "Are you seeing this shit?" type look. He asks me again what he said. I reiterate, and he says he's going to talk to him. I am not one for confrontation, so I am very nervous and hide back on dish as my AGM walks over to him. I wasn't out there to hear, but was told my AGM said, as politely and stern as possible, that he cannot keep bothering and harassing his servers like this, making us uncomfortable. That I am underage and simply here to do my job. The creep started going off at my AGM, saying he was just talking to me, whatever. My AGM repeats himself and walks away. My AGM is back on the server line behind the counter seats when creep apparently decides he had more to say. He comes up and starts screaming at my AGM. I don't remember exactly what was said, but he was causing a huge scene. At this point, me and the dishwasher hear the commotion, and he walks up front with me to see what was going on. My AGM basically tells him he needs to go sit down and he will not tolerate him talking to him that way. Creep is still yelling when my AGM turns around and goes to the back. I follow. He tells me he's going to call the cops, and I continue to hide out till they arrive. I eventually have to go out for one reason or another, and at this point the police are asking Creep to leave. He starts screaming at the police and trying his fucking hardest to kick them from his fucking wheelchair. Up until this point I didn't even think dude could lift his legs, but here he is, kicking and screaming at the police. I was blown. I run to the back again. They eventually arrest him. His dad says not a word and pays their bill and leaves. They're obviously not allowed back, and I haven't seen them in years, thankfully. What really fucking gets me is another one of my managers at the time, who I also love and continue to see on occasion, calls me into the office about an hour later and has Google Maps on the computer screen. This bored motherfucker looked up Creep's address on the paper he gave me on Google Maps. In the street view there's a picture of a cop car outside of his house. We both lost it. Clearly this guy gets into shit pretty often. Who knows when that picture was taken? And what are the odds? So happy ending all in all. Still haven't seen Creep to this day, and now have added this to my collection of stories working there. 5. So I'm a host at a chain restaurant. On the weekends we usually go on a wait, and I'm usually in charge of handling the wait. The worst is on Fridays. We're not that busy, but a lot of high schoolers come in and sit for a while, so it can lead to long wait times. This story is about the middle-aged couple that came in last Friday night. They waited about 20 minutes for a table. I called their name and brought them to the only open table in the restaurant at the time. The dialogue is mostly me and the middle-aged man and my manager. I don't think his wife spoke any English because he kept translating things. I brought them to the table, which admittedly wasn't the best table in the restaurant.
I don't like this table. Give us another.
I'm sorry, but this is all we have right now. If you'd like to wait up front and get the next available table. He says something to his wife, and she says something back, shaking her head.
No, it's fine.
At this point he's waving me away and sitting down. Kinda rude, but I thought that was the end of it. I walk away, and about 15 minutes later one of our party tables gets up, so the bussers start cleaning it, and I informed a party of 9 that had been waiting that their table would be ready shortly. A busser told me it was clean, so I began walking the party over when I see 2 heads at the booth already. I told the party I would be right back, and I walked over to see middle-aged man and middle-aged woman sitting in our party booth meant for like 10 people. Excuse me, sir, you can't just change seats. This table is meant for a party that had been waiting for a long time. Would you please get up?
You told us we could get the next table.
No, I told you could wait at the front if you wanted to get the next table, which you said you didn't want to do. Besides, this is a party booth meant for a party, not 2 people. Please get up.
I would like to speak to a manager.
Sure thing. I walked past the party that was waiting and told them it would be just a moment. They seemed okay with the situation because it really wasn't my fault. I grab my manager and explain the whole thing briefly before she goes over there. I wasn't there for this part, but I assume she told them to move, and they got mad and stormed out. I sat the party and went about my work. It was still early in the night. About 20 minutes later, they come back in and storm up to the host stand and demand a table. Sure, can I have a name, please? I remembered the name. I was being petty at this point.
We were already here. We will take the next table.
I apologize, but you left. And since then, more people have come in. It wouldn't be fair for them to have you skip in front of them. I totally could have sat them next. I have done it before. I think I should have done it, but they were making life difficult, so I didn't feel like helping them out. He gives me his name. Alrighty. The wait time is about 45 minutes right now. You can have a seat and I'll call you when we have something for you. I give him a smile. At this point, he's standing right in front of my host stand for the entire time he's waiting, watching the wait list. When his name is up next, he calls his wife and they both stand straight in front of me, waiting for the next table. A table got up, and it's the same table from before that they didn't want. I really wanted to bring them there, but I knew it would cause trouble or something, so I told him, "You're up next, but the only table open right now is the one you didn't want from before. Do you want to wait for the next one, and I'll seat the next person on the wait?"
No, I've been waiting for an hour to eat. Sit me now.
He looks pissed. Sure thing. I'm not entirely sure he understood what I was asking him, because when I brought them to the table, they were both visibly disappointed. They kind of argued with each other for like 20 seconds, but they sat down anyway. This is where I get extra petty. I noticed the booth near them was getting up, and I knew they were eyeing it, but they didn't say anything to me. I coordinated with the bussers to have it cleaned faster than normal, and began walking the next couple over there and arrived at the table as they finished cleaning. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw them start to get up. I assumed to move. All told, they were sat probably 45 seconds apart. So if they had just waited, they would have gotten a better table. That's the end of my encounters with them. But the whole visit they kept giving me death stares. I knew they'd try to have their meals comped for having to wait, but the RM told them no. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates number 35. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I keep hearing weird sounds as I'm recording. That would probably creep me out if I was recording paranormal stories while it was happening, but I had the heating on earlier, so it's probably just, things expanding, contracting with the heat as the house cools down. I hope. Well, with that pleasant thought, I'm going to leave you for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.